The final goodbye from City Hall, and the slow march begins. We're watching on the right of your screen. It's Brett Hawke, the minister, welcoming Prime Minister Stephen Harper to Roy Thompson Hall. Reverend Hawke will be conducting the service as Lorraine Harper. We saw that gripping photograph earlier this week. Mrs. Harper arriving on Parliament Hill to pay her respects. Very emotional. Being comforted by Olivia Chow. And that's the kind of thing we were witnessing last night at City Hall. Olivia Chow going out and hugging members of the crowd who'd come to say goodbye to her husband. Reverend Hawke's very well known in Toronto and across the country. Let's listen to the Prime Minister.
Well, it's obviously been an extraordinary and very emotional week. Canadians, supporters and opponents alike have had an opportunity to express, to pay honor, to express their gratitude for Jack Layton's contribution to our public life. And I hope all of this has been some comfort to his friends and family. Ça a été une semaine extraordinaire et très émotive.
So this has been a very emotional and an extraordinary week, and it's an opportunity for all Canadians, his supporters, as well as his opponents, to pay homage, to pay tribute to Jack Layton for his contribution to public life. And I hope that this has been a comfort to his friends and family.
The Prime Minister commenting to reporters and obviously to the country at large through television and radio on the kind of week that we have witnessed, and the same kind of adjectives keep coming up no matter who's speaking, and you heard the Prime Minister echoing them as well. Emotional, extraordinary week, and it has been, I think, beyond anyone's predictions. It was going to be a gripping story and moment, of that there is no question. But the way it seems to have taken hold in these final days of the summer of 2011, where Canadians, not just in Toronto, not just in Ottawa, but in different places across the country, have attended vigils honoring the leader of what traditionally was the third party, suddenly on May 2nd vaulted into the number 2 position and the leader of the official opposition. The death and the passing of Jack Layton. And I think it's been a real mix of those who have been caught up in this. It's not just admirers and supporters of Jack Layton, not just supporters of the NDP. There have been a lot of people, and the Prime Minister referred to that too, watching so many of his colleagues from his party, from the Liberal Party, very caught up in this story. We witnessed tears from Liberals and Conservatives on Monday as the news spread around the political family. And it's been like that throughout this week, culminating in this moment today, the state funeral. Now, the Governor-General is arriving as well, David Johnston and his wife Sharon, and I think the Governor-General he's welcomed by the Prime Minister, both of whom are just back from visits to Arctic Canada. The Governor-General talking to Reverend Hawke and Mrs. Harper. And I think we'll stick with this because the Governor-General is expected the next. Here he is. Let's listen.
Well, Sharon and I are honored to be here representing all Canadians at this event, the funeral of Jack Layton. Of course, it's a time of mourning for us, but also a time to celebrate a remarkable life of leadership. But it's so important in our system to have a clear and passionate voice for the ordinary person, and Mr. Layton was that person. Sharon et moi, nous sommes très honorés d'être ici pour honorer et rendre hommage à Jack Layton. C'est vraiment un moment pour pleurer, mais aussi pour célébrer une vie remarquable. Dans notre système, C'est très important d'avoir une voix claire et passionnante pour monsieur et madame tout le monde. Merci. Thank you so much.
Governor General David Johnston, a clear and passionate voice for the ordinary person is the way the Governor General described Jack Layton, and I think many Canadians would agree with that, and it's the kind of thing we seem to have witnessed throughout this week. This is looking down Queen Street in Toronto, which is just the southern end of the City Hall complex, and it will move out towards University Avenue, which sort of cuts through the heart of downtown Toronto. That's the route the funeral procession will take. We will keep an eye on it here from the skies above Toronto, the helicopter keeping track of this procession, and behind it, past the police escort, the family of Jack Layton, led by Olivia Chow. Toronto police were expecting upwards of 20,000 people lining the streets of downtown Toronto for this procession. A short one, as I mentioned earlier, shouldn't take much more than perhaps 15, 20 minutes at the most to make its way to Roy Thomson Hall. Once it gets to University Avenue, the procession will swing south beneath the huge office and condominium towers that line that street southwards, ultimately to Lake Ontario. But the procession will swing off at King Street, a few blocks south of Queen Street, and make its way over to Roy Thomson Hall. That's Roy Thomson Hall once again. One of the country's best-known concert halls today will be transformed into the site of a state funeral. 2,800 people expected, the vast majority of whom are invited guests. However, there was room for the public. About 600 to 700 members of the general public were going to be allowed in, and they started lining up late yesterday afternoon. And the numbers, the 600 or so, were met very early this morning, and they will be in attendance. But giant screens are set up in a number of different locations, so an overflow crowd can watch. You can see many of these people in the middle of downtown Toronto who've just wanted that final moment